The new Nothing Phone 2 costs £579 or $600, which is quite a bit more than the Phone 1, which retailed for £400. But unlike the Phone 1, which came with some mid-range specs, the Phone 2 now comes with a flagship chip and a number of camera upgrades and new features. So can the Phone 2 actually compete with the entry-level flagships from Apple, Samsung, and Google? We'll find out in 8 different test categories, from the price all the way down to the ecosystem and the battery. Right before you find out about our sponsor, Insta360. The Insta360 Flow is a versatile smartphone gimbal made for easy on-the-go shooting with 3-axis stabilization, AI tracking so you never leave the frame, and so much more. Find out more about the Insta360 Flow by using the link below, as well as later in the video. Starting off with the price, the most affordable one here is the Phone 2, followed by the Pixel 7, which has the same price in the US but costs £20 more in the UK. And then we have the iPhone 14 and the S23, both at $200 more than the Phone 2 or £270 more here in the UK. Also, to note, I am aware that there are numerous discounts online for all of these phones, but to make things easy, we're gonna compare the retail prices. For each section, I'm gonna give 4 points to the best phone, 3 points to the second, and so on. So in the case of the price, the Nothing Phone 2 is the best here, so 4 points, then the Pixel 7, followed by both the iPhone 14 and the S23. Moving on to the design, this is a very subjective area, so I'll try to point out the 3 aspects in which they all differ here, and those are the front, the frame, and the back. So the best looking front to me is the S23, as it's got the thinnest bezels. The Nothing Phone 2 features bezels that are almost as thin as the S23, then we got the Pixel 7, which has slightly thicker bezels and also a fairly thick chin, and then lastly we have the iPhone 14, which has the thickest bezels and also that infamous notch. In terms of the frame, both Nothing and Apple use a flat frame, which I find very easy to grip, although somewhat uncomfortable. Whereas Google and Samsung, they use a rounded frame, with Google being just a bit more curved, and I gotta say, I personally find Google's frame to be the most comfortable here. So it's really a matter of, do you want grip or do you want comfort? I should also mention that Samsung is the only one to feature a glossy frame, which does make it look more premium compared to the matte frame on the other 3. And in terms of the back, Samsung is the only one to feature a frosted glass back, which I really love, as it doesn't gather any fingerprints or smudges. Whereas Apple and Google, they just use regular glass. And then with Nothing, we definitely have the most unique look, with its transparent back and the iconic glyph interface that lights up when you get a notification or a call, or you can use it as a light for recording video, or as a torch, or you can see the progress on a timer, or when you adjust the volume, or even when you call an Uber. So because of this unique back and the very thin bezels and no notch on the front, I'm gonna give the design win to the Nothing Phone 2, followed by the S23, then the Pixel 7, and then of course the iPhone 14 with its fairly thick bezels and its notch. So now, what about the cameras? Is this where spending $200 extra really makes a difference? Well, let's have a look and see. But before that, one way to make your smartphone videos look miles better is with a smart gimbal such as this. The Insta360 Flow gimbal is more than just a stabilizer, offering versatility for your content with its built-in tripod, selfie stick, battery bank, and cold shoe mount for small microphones. You can get shooting in seconds with their one-step rapid deploy by magnetically snapping your phone onto the arm and then unfolding the handle as it auto-balances and connects to the app. The Insta360 Flow also benefits from AI enhancements powered by the app, which features Deep Track 3.0, where the device can track and remember a subject even when there are obstructions in the frame, and recover as soon as the subject returns. You also find that when I leave the frame and Owen comes in, the Insta360 Flow will remember that it was looking for me, and so when I return, it will track me once again. Get your Insta360 Flow today by using the promo link down below. And now, onto the camera test. So, in terms of daytime photography, the S23 is capable of handling HDR the best here. You can see how the foreground and the background are perfectly exposed, whereas the Google and the Nothing underexpose the shadows, with the iPhone being sort of like in the middle. Same thing in this second daytime shot, where you can see how the shadows in the background are almost crushed entirely on the Nothing phone, a bit better on the iPhone, bit better on the Pixel, and noticeably better on the S23, which exposes everything perfectly. When we switch to night mode, the results are more similar, with the Nothing Phone 2 standing out by being the darkest and the softest. Both Samsung and Google do a very good job here, with the iPhone blowing out the lamp and just being softer in general. In the second night mode shot, we get very different results on each, with the Nothing phone being the darkest and Samsung utilizing night mode to its fullest, although at the cost of sharpness. The iPhone was pretty good, but the Pixel was definitely the best here, as it is the most accurate compared to how the scene looked in real life. In terms of the ultra-wide, the iPhone, the Nothing, and the Samsung are all very good here. The Pixel is just not as wide as the rest. Samsung does have the best overall image, as the corners do remain perfectly sharp, whereas on the Nothing and the iPhone we do start seeing some softness. When it comes to zoom, the S23 is the only one with a dedicated telephoto module, in this case 3x. All the others use digital zoom. And this is very obvious, with the S23 performing the best here. The Pixel doing a surprisingly good job too, followed by the Nothing, which still has a bit more detail than the iPhone. If you take a lot of portrait mode shots, you'll be pleased to know that aside from the Pixel, which looks very low res and lacks almost any blur entirely, they all look good, with both Samsung and Nothing having some great hair separation, and the iPhone usually preferring a stronger depth of field. In terms of video, pretty much no surprise here. The iPhone is still the best, with the best dynamic range and the best detail. Samsung is a very close second though, followed by the Pixel and then the Nothing phone, which does need some improvement in terms of how it handles the shadows, as most of them were crushed almost entirely here. And when it comes to the front, Nothing and Google seem to go for a more natural look, whereas the iPhone and the Samsung tend to bump up the brightness and the vibrancy quite heavily. I do actually prefer the Nothing phone here, but yes, this is a matter of preference. In terms of night mode front, the Pixel and the iPhone don't do as well here. The iPhone aged me by like at least 50 years, Nothing did surprisingly good, and same goes for the S23, which did the best here. So considering all of this, the best overall camera is on the S23, followed by the iPhone 14, then the Pixel 7, and then the Nothing phone 2. When it comes to the display, these are the display sizes. So if you're looking for a more compact phone, then you should definitely go with the S23 or the iPhone 14, with the S23 being slightly more compact and easier to use in one hand thanks to its narrower frame. But if you're looking for a bigger display, that's where the Nothing phone 2 shines, as it's literally got the same display size as the iPhone 14 Pro Max. They all feature roughly the same resolution, with the iPhone being the highest, which means that with a large 6.7-inch display, the Nothing phone 2 actually has the lowest PPI. Although I couldn't really see any difference whilst I was using it, and I think the extra screen real estate when you're browsing the web does actually make a bigger difference here. Aside from the display size, the biggest difference is really when it comes to the refresh rate, with the Nothing phone 2 and the S23 having 120Hz panels, while the Pixel 7 has a 90Hz and the iPhone has a 60Hz. And man, the difference between the iPhone and the Pixel is very noticeable, with the Pixel being far more fluid to use, and then the Samsung and the Nothing phone being slightly more fluid than the Pixel. Brightness is also another important factor, and from just looking at the numbers, Samsung has the brightest display in both HDR and outdoors, while the iPhone is the dimmest. But when using them, this wasn't necessarily the case. The S23 was definitely the brightest outdoors and in HDR, but the iPhone seemed to be a close second, at least in terms of HDR content. So considering all of this, including things such as the always-on functionality, which is lacking on the iPhone, the best display goes to the S23. Then the phone 2, then the Pixel, and then the iPhone. Now, having a good display for watching content is one thing. Having great speakers to enjoy that content on is another. So let's see how the speakers compare. So the iPhone definitely sounded the best, to no one's surprise. Then the Nothing phone 2 surprisingly was the second best, then the Samsung, and then the Pixel, which sounded quite bad, and the sound was pretty much mono. But okay, how does it actually feel to use these phones? They're all powered by different chips with different amounts of RAM, with the iPhone being the most powerful and the Pixel being the least powerful. And using these felt quite different. The phone 2 actually felt pretty great. Like, the phone's really snappy. It hasn't lagged on me even once, and I do love the super clean UI. Like, I really love how you can have each app match Nothing's black and white style, which is really cool. And I also love how you can have these custom folders and you can actually give them a, a custom icon with just loads of options to pick from. And you can also customize these quite heavily. And I also love that I can add quick toggles directly onto my home screen, as well as my lock screen and my always on display. Literally, the only downside that I have using the phone 2 is that the haptics are just not that great. The iPhone 14 though was quite of a different story. Like, it still felt quite fast using it, even with the 60Hz panel, but iOS has a ton of bugs lately. I've had a number of app crashes. I've also had cases where a lot of the apps were just not loaded in the background. So yeah, the experience was not that great. This could be due to just having 6 gigs of RAM. Also, the fact that you cannot place widgets anywhere you want on a home screen, or the fact that the app library is fixed in terms of the names, you cannot really change the folder names or reorganize this, just made it feel more restrictive than using the phone 2, for example. The haptics felt great on the iPhone, it's just that iOS simply isn't using haptics as much in the OS as Android is. The S23 felt great too, literally zero lag. Everything felt super fluid. And I also love the amount of customization options and features that Samsung gives you. Things such as holding a palm to take a selfie, or the fact that you can literally add folders in the app drawer itself and, keep your home screen clean. I found haptics to be very, very good and also utilized in a lot of different areas across the operating system. So yeah, overall great experience with the S23. And the Pixel 7 was once again a bit of a mixed bag. So I did encounter a few glitches with some apps and animations freaking out. The phone also got quite hot on a number of occasions, which did actually affect its battery life. But I did really enjoy the super clean and simple to use UI. Although I did miss out a lot of customization features that the Nothing Phone 2 offered. However, the haptics were definitely the best on the Pixel, and the typing experience was just a joy on this phone. The Pixel 7 definitely has the best typing experience out of all of these 4. So based on my experience, the best usage goes to the S23. Thanks to just being the best all-in-one package in terms of features, fluidity, and haptics. Then the Nothing Phone 2 for its super clean UI and fluidness, then the iPhone 14 for its haptics, heat management, and overall performance, and then the Pixel 7 because of the heating issues that I mentioned, alongside some heavy power drain issues and other glitches that I've experienced. Now, some of you might be thinking of buying some other devices from these brands. So how good is each brand's ecosystem? Well, Nothing is a fairly new company, so the only other products that they sell right now are the Ear 2s and the Ear Sticks. They do match the iconic design of the phone 2, but they don't really have any exclusive functionality for it, as in you can download and use their app on any other phone, but that's pretty much it. The Pixel 7 is a similar story. Google does have way more devices to sell, from the Pixel tablet, to the Pixel Watch, to the Nest Hub, to way more. But just like the Nothing Phone, those work with any other Android phone as well, so you don't need to have a Pixel to, get any functionality. And there's also no exclusive functionality between a Pixel phone and a Pixel tablet, for example, at least as of right now. Samsung is really the first one to have a true ecosystem. Like, not only do they have loads of devices from earbuds to watches to TVs to even laptops and fridges, but they do actually give you extra functionality if you have a Samsung phone. For example, you can mirror your phone's display directly to your Samsung's laptop, or have universal copy and paste between your multiple Samsung devices, or answer your call from your Samsung phone onto your Samsung tablets, and more things like that. Also, Samsung phones do work quite well with Windows, with some very close integrations such as OneDrive, Photos, Contacts, and more. And then Apple has by far the best ecosystem. They have almost as many products as Samsung, but with an amazing level of integration. Like, you still get that same close integration as you get with Samsung, like answering phone calls on other devices or replying to messages, as well as that universal copy and paste. But then you also get a lot more on top of that. For example, you can use your iPhone's front-facing camera to scan the inside of your ear and improve the audio performance of your AirPods. You can also quickly transfer your photos taken on your iPhone straight to your Mac with AirDrop. You can use your MacBook's mouse and keyboard directly on your iPad, or use your iPad as a display for your Mac, and so much more. But of course, the only downside to Apple's ecosystem is that it is closed off. So your products would only work best with other Apple products, and third-party functionality is either heavily limited or non-existent. Ecosystem-wise, I still have to give the win to Apple though, just because of how well everything works together. Second place goes to Samsung, really good job here, then Google, and then Nothing. So what about the battery? Well, the phone 2 does have the largest battery, while the iPhone 14 has the smallest. However, it is really hard to say which one will last you the longest, as it heavily depends on factors such as obviously your usage, your brightness levels, even stuff like cellular signal. And while I've had some heavy battery usage on the Pixel 7 at launch, there have been a number of software updates to improve on that. So based on my usage, they should all last you for a full day of moderate use, with the longest lasting ones being the Nothing and the iPhone. Of course, that if they charge fast, you don't really care about them not lasting as long. And here, the Nothing Phone 2 charges the fastest at 45 watts, which gives you a 50% charge in just about 20 minutes, and a full charge in about 55. All the others take about 30 minutes to charge to 50% and around 1.5 hours to 2 hours to charge to full. They all support wireless charging, but with Apple, you need to buy a MagSafe charger if you want to get those fast 15 watt speeds. With all the other phones, you can get 15 watts regardless of what charger you use. And then with a Pixel, you can get up to 20 watts wireless charging if you buy Pixel's official charger. All three Androids also support the reverse wireless charging for charging things such as earbuds or a Samsung Galaxy Watch. All in all, the Nothing Phone 2 does win the battery category, as it has the largest battery and the fastest charging. Then we have the Pixel 7 with the second largest battery and the fastest charging speeds after the Nothing Phone 2. Then we have the S23, and then we have the iPhone 14, which lacks reverse wireless charging and still uses Lightning as opposed to USB-C. Okay, so adding up all the scores, the Nothing Phone 2 has 23 points. The iPhone 14 has 18, the Samsung Galaxy S23 has 24, and the Pixel 7 has 16. So the best phone overall here is the S23. And like I mentioned, you can find some very good deals on it and get it for almost the same price as the Nothing Phone 2. All in all, I think it's pretty impressive that Nothing has managed to come so close to the S23 for its price. And what's even more impressive is that it ended up outperforming the Pixel 7 and the iPhone 14 in a lot of cases. So personally, I think Nothing's on a really good track, and I can definitely recommend the Nothing Phone 2 to everyone looking for a good deal, as well as for a very unique smartphone here in 2023. If you want to pre-order the Nothing Phone 2, you can use the link below, and you can also use those links to purchase these phones at discounts, and while doing so, you'll be supporting the channel. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of the Nothing Phone 2. I'm Daniel, this means ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.